So now we're getting to some fun stuff. This is kind of what I like to use my pendulum for a lot, is clearing people, spaces, places, and vehicles, whatever it is that we're looking to move energy on. I use my pendulum to do just that. And so what we do is we're going to use this pendulum almost like a vacuum. So when I go in and do a house clearing, I'll go in and I'm going to counterclockwise spin my pendulum. So at first, I kind of give it you could just ask the pendulum, okay, start clearing the room for me, and it will kind of give you a light spin. So you can work with it that way, where you just ask it. When I'm going into a clearing, because I know I'm just creating this as a vacuum, I give it a spin like this, and I just allow it to start. So once it gets one spin, then I'm not pushing it to spin anymore, unless I get called to do a heavier, almost vacuum suction. So I almost see my pendulum as it swings as this giant vacuum. So while it's going counterclockwise, so backwards, right, we're going to allow this pendulum to suck all the energy up. So I'll sit with, say we're working with the body to start with, we're going to watch as this thing's spinning at the feet and up the legs. And so we can set that intention where we don't actually have to be over the body, right? You can see how it's kind of going, and now we're over the head. So we can work with that energy where we're pulling it all the way up from the legs, from the feet, all the way up through the legs and up to the head. So this is a great way to start pulling it off of people. Our animals too, if the animals need a little bit of work, we'll just go over top of the animal, just feeling that vacuum pulling all of that energy up, whether this is emotions or some attachments or just stagnant energy that needs to be moved. This is how we're going to move that energy. And so this is the start. You can also work with your chakras if you wanted to as well. So this wouldn't be a Reiki practice per se. This would more be like, we're just laying down, say we're laying down and we're just gonna work on the throat. So we're gonna allow this to go counterclockwise around the throat, allowing it to move all the things, right? So we're just going to allow that pendulum to swing. So I allow it to swing until it stops. So this is why you're not forcing that swing after that first initial one if you choose to do it that way. So we just allow the pendulum to go. So it's just pulling everything out of that throat chakra. That's the intention we're setting. And you can be laying down so that it's actually over top of you. But you see as my pendulum starts slowing down that little bit. So we're allowing it to show us when it's done. So now you can see it's going to that back and forth. That's my yes. So that shows me that I'm clear. So yours might just stop, right? So yours may choose to just stay stagnant once we've finished, but then we're not finished there, right? Okay, so now we've pulled all this energy out counterclockwise. So now I take my pendulum and I'm going to go back clockwise. So because we know that the throat chakra is blue, I would just set that intention that we're just going to pull some blue energy to help open that throat, allowing it to go that clockwise to fill that throat up into that energy until it's full and feeling good, like it's full of the codes, right? So we can do this with each chakra in the body, or we can just set the intention of just doing it for the whole body. Okay, so this is how we're going to work with the cats, the dogs, the horses, whatever you're working with, all your animals. We can do this with the car as well. So it doesn't always have to be a color. So see my pendulum saying yes, like we finished. So then we've done that clearing in the throat. So this is just another way to work with that pendulum. Depending on what it is you're clearing, right? So if we're going through the chakras, we can just go and fill each chakra up with that light that is tied to the chakras, or we can just fill it up with light codes, with healing energy, setting the intention. So when we go into a room, we're going to do the same thing for each room. So we're going to be pulling that energy out counterclockwise, just setting the intention that the entire room that we're in is going to be magnetized. So this is where the pendulum will go a little bit bigger when we're working in spaces. And so we have this big swing that takes the entire room's energy. Then we're going to fill each room, depending on where we are, with different kinds of energy. So when I go and do the office, I'm going to bring in that motivation, that passion, and that creativity to be like, this is that energy that I look forward to coming in. So when I fill my room back up after I've pulled all that energy out, I'm going to set that intention that I'm going to pull all this like manifesting creativity, whatever motivation that I need for that room. For the bathroom, I'm going to do something about we're going to cleanse and purge and release and allow that water to heal, right? So we're going to change the flow with each room, each person. We can set different intentions while we're filling them back up with energy. So this is going to be something to pay attention to with each thing. And maybe I will actually leave notes of like how I fill different spaces. And we'll go much more in depth once we get into the house clearing course, where I will really go in depth and teach you guys how to do the whole space, how I kind of like grid the system and everything like that when I get into a house. And that way it gets my own energy field going, or yours, depending on if I'm doing my house or somebody else's. And so we'll get much deeper into this later if you choose to go farther. But for now, we're really wanting to just work with that energy. How do we pull that energy out and how do we put new energy in? So I'll make a little list of like how I work with each room and different intentions that we can set while we're clearing and healing each room, and as well as our vehicles, right? So same thing, we're just gonna go, and we don't have to be in our vehicles, right? We can do this work from distance, which means we can work on our family and friends that are far away from each other because we're just setting the intention, right? So if I'm sitting there thinking about you watching this video, I'm just gonna pull that energy from your feet all the way up your legs, all the way up through the chest and to the top of the head. And then once I get to the top of the head, I'm just going to allow that to suck all the way to the top. You feel that working? So then we pull all that energy out, right? And we allow that pendulum to get to that point of clearing, sucking everything from the feet all the way up to the head. And then we'll get to that point where the pendulum goes back and forth. Then we'll just switch gears and we're going to go clockwise, and we're going to just fill you with that and understanding that we already know how to use our intuition. We already know everything that we need to when it comes to working with the pendulum and moving all that energy and everything like this. So we're just going to fill our entire being from head to toe with that knowing that we already know what we're doing. And that this is just a reminder. This isn't a class teaching you how to use this pendulum, but it's a reminder of how to use that pendulum. And then when I finish, I like to kind of just pull all that energy off and I just release it. So it's kind of just that like releasing it to like ash back down to the earth. Or you can send it up into a bubble, out into space, whatever feels good for you. I like to just give that pendulum a good pull after it's done some good work, and let's just release it. This just makes sure that the pendulum's not taking on too much energy, because it's not going to want to do much work if we constantly just fill it with energy, but we don't release that energy. So it'll be just like another thing to remember as you work with your pendulum. So we're going to do the same thing with our vehicles. With the rooms, if we're going to work with land, we can do the same thing, right? The vortex will just be a little bit bigger when we're working with land, but this is where we're going to learn how to hold that bigger space with our energy. So it won't just be the pendulum, right? Even when we're working, no matter what we're doing, it's not just the pendulum. However, we're using that pendulum to see and do things differently. And this is just one of the tools that we use, right? So let's work with that for now. We're just going to practice over this next little while, clearing people. Let's ask our family members in the house telepathically if we can clear their energy. Say one of the children are having a bad day or something like that. Just ask their body, truth, can I work with you right now? And if you get that yes, then just pull that energy while sitting in your bedroom or wherever you're working, right? And don't even need to ask them physically for permission, but watch as they change. And yes, ask them physically for permission as well. However, if you want to see that difference, you can work with their higher self to see if you can work with them. And this will kind of show you that shift in the energy. So this will be a fun thing to play with this week, is really pulling all the energy out of your spaces, right? Start with yourself or one of your family members or a pet. Pull their energy out, refill them with that light, and then just go to the next, right? Clear that pendulum, and then go work on your bedroom. Go work in your bathroom. Go do something that you can always feel weird energy there, and see if you can't pull that energy out yourself. And maybe it'll take a couple tries, but that's okay. Just work with what you have right now. We're just starting to shift these energies, so allow yourself to just work with what you have. Okay, I will chat with you guys soon.